Hola and welcome to ProSpanish. If you want to say you should in Spanish, you should, we say deberías, 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 you should. So to say to somebody, you should eat, eat is comer, comer, the full verb, the infinitive. So to say you should eat, deberías comer, deberías comer. If you just see down at the bottom, we'll have a little box there where we're going to put some verbs because some of you will have more vocabulary than others, and I want this to be accessible to everybody. So we'll have in there comer, to eat, beber, to drink, probar is to, sounds like to probe, but it's to try something out for the first time, like to try a new food or to try an experience. Probar, that's the word probe does actually come from there. Hacer, to do or to make. Hacer is to do or to make, and llamar is to call. Llamar is to call, and then we'll also just have algo for something, and esto meaning this. Okay, and that'll just help us be more creative. So we've just seen deberías comer is you should eat. Now that we have algo, we could say deberías comer algo. You should eat something. You should eat something. How would you say you should drink something? What would that be? You should drink something. Deberías beber algo. Deberías beber algo. And how about you should try this? You should try this. What would that be? You should try this. Deberías probar esto. Deberías probar esto. You should try this. And to say you shouldn't, as always, to make a negative, we just start off with no. So, no deberías, you shouldn't. How would you say, you shouldn't drink this? You shouldn't drink this. What would that be? No deberías beber esto. No deberías beber esto. And for those of you who already know how to use should and are eager to get on to should have, we will get there, but let's just give it a little bit of practice to those of you that don't know the basic should yet. Okay, so you should, deberías. If you want to say I should, you just drop the S. So debería. Debería is I should. How would you say I shouldn't do this? I shouldn't do this. No debería hacer esto. No debería hacer esto. How about you should call? You should call. What would that be? Deberías llamar. Deberías llamar. Although it would be more usual to say you should call me. And to say call me, llamar, and me is me, actually spelt the same as in English, me, me. And you just stick it onto the word so it becomes part of llamar. So llamarme, all one word, to call me, or just call me, llamarme. So again, how would we say, you should call me? What would that be? Deberías llamarme. Deberías llamarme. And the opposite of me, you. So me and te, te, te. So how would you say, I should call you? I should call you. What would that be? Debería llamarte. Debería llamarte. So me, you, me, and te. How about you should try it? You should try it. And the word for it is lo, L-A-L-O, lo. And just like me and te, it just sticks onto the infinitive verb. Like it was llamarme or llamarte. So with the lo being it could be hacerlo, to do it, beberlo, to drink it. So how would we say you should try it? What would that be? You should try it. Deberías probarlo. Deberías probarlo. You should try it. And just before we move on to should have, I'll mention the levels 1 to 6 ProSpanish course, available for download from prospanish.co.uk. And this course takes the complete beginner up to a conversational level of Spanish in a series of very easy to follow steps. That's prospanish.co.uk. Okay, so back to the lesson, and we're going to look at you should have done something, you should have called me, you should have eaten more. You should is deberías. You should have is deberías haber. Deberías haber. So we know that after should, we need the infinitive, like comer, beber, llamar, probar, hacer. And the infinitive of have is haber, haber. So you should have, deberías haber, deberías haber, you should have. So you should have, deberías haber. And we wouldn't say you should have eat, you should have drink. We would say you should have eaten, or you should have done. And eaten is comido, comido, comido is eaten. And let's just change our verbs we have at the bottom to reflect this. So we want to go, it's called the past participle, but it's just basically changing a verb from eat to eaten, from do to done. So we've got comido, eaten, bebido, drunk, as in I have drunk, or to have drunk. Probar becomes probado, so tried, to have tried. Llamar is llamado, for called, to have called. And hacer, because it's irregular, it goes to hecho. So to have done, done is hecho, hecho, an irregular one. So haber comido is to have eaten. Haber bebido, to have drunk. So going back to what we said when we said you should have, how do we say you should have drunk something? What would that be? You should have drunk something. Deberías haber bebido algo. Deberías haber bebido algo. How about you should have tried this? You should have tried this. What would that be? Deberías haber probado esto. Deberías haber probado esto. You should have tried this. How about you shouldn't have done this? You shouldn't have done this. What would that be? No deberías haber hecho esto. No deberías haber hecho esto. So, no deberías, you shouldn't. Haber, have. Hecho, done, esto, this. No deberías haber hecho esto. You shouldn't have done this. And if you remember, debería is I should, just knocking off the S from deberías. You get to debería, I should. So how would you say, I shouldn't have done this? I shouldn't have done this. What would that be? No debería haber hecho esto. No debería haber hecho esto. How about, I should have eaten something. I should have eaten something. What would that be? Debería haber comido algo. Debería haber comido algo. Okay, now what about if we want to say, I should have called you. I should have called you. We learned before, I should call you. Debería llamarte. I should call you. But what about I should have called you? Well, we can only put our me, te, and lo. We can only stick it onto the end of a full verb, an infinitive, like llamar. But we haven't got that now because we've got llamado and bebido, etc. So what infinitive do we have? We have the infinitive haber in there. So we'll stick it onto there. So, debería haberte llamado. Debería haberte llamado. I should have called you. So you just put the te on the haber. Debería haberte llamado. I should have called you. How would we say, you should have called me? You should have called me. What would that be? Deberías haberme llamado. Deberías haberme llamado. So the me on the haber. Haberme. Deberías haberme llamado. How about, you shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have done it. Follow the same method as we've just done with me and te. You shouldn't have done it. What would that be? No deberías haberlo hecho. No deberías haberlo hecho. How about, I should have tried it. I should have tried it. What would that be? Debería haberlo probado. Debería haberlo probado. I should have tried it. Okay, now we said that you should is deberías. I should, debería, taken off the S. And you may well know, or you may well have guessed, that he, she, is also debería. So debería is I, but it's also he and she, just depending on the context. Often somebody's name will be mentioned. So how would you say, Pablo should have called me? Pablo should have called me. What would that be? Pablo debería haberme llamado. Pablo debería haberme llamado. How about, Maria should have done something. Maria should have done something. What would that be? María debería haber hecho algo. María debería haber hecho algo. She should have done something. How about, Carmen shouldn't have eaten it. Carmen shouldn't have eaten it. Maybe she's allergic to it. What would that be? Carmen no debería haberlo comido. Carmen no debería haberlo comido. So, deberías, debería. It's worth noting that there's a very common alternative to deberías haber, you should have, and it goes like this. Where you may say, deberías haber comido algo, you should have eaten something. You could also say, tenías que haber comido algo. Tenías que haber comido algo. You should have eaten something. And it kind of follows the form. It's a bit of a strange one to translate back into English, literally. I mean, it has the meaning of should have, but structurally it translates as you had to have done this. You had to have done this, but we wouldn't use that in the same way in English. So it translates to you should have. So basically, tenías que, meaning you had to. tenías que haber, now meaning you should have, tenías que haber hecho esto, you should have done this. And the lo, or the me, or the te, goes on to haber in the same way as the deberías bit. So, tenías que haberme llamado. You should have called me. And if it's for I, again, as with deberías, you just knock off the S. So, tenía que haberte llamado. I should have called you. Tenía que haberte llamado. I should have called you. So let's just try a couple of these. So how would you say, using this tenía or tenías que form, how would you say you should have done something? You should have done something. Tenías que haber hecho algo. Tenías que haber hecho algo. How about you should have tried it? You should have tried it. Tenías que haberlo probado. Tenías que haberlo probado. Tenías que haberlo probado. You should have tried it. How about I should have called you? I should have called you. What would that be? Tenía que haberte llamado. Tenía que haberte llamado. And that concludes today's Pro-Spanish lesson. As mentioned previously, if you're looking to become a confident and a competent speaker of Spanish, then head over to the site prospanish.co.uk, where you can download the full Levels 1 to 6 course.